oh man, views are down. Like, what's going on? These algorithms are blocking me. It's like, no, they're not. The reality is the market is different. There's 3 times more content being made, period, than there was 2 years ago. So the question becomes, well, if I want to even maintain the amount of views and everything I have, that means I got to get 3 times better, or put out 3 times the amount of content, or do, whatever the case is, right? I have a big problem when there are people who aren't making very much money. So in this case, let's say less than 100K, and they got families and other things. And they're like, dude, I want to buy some rental properties and get some passive income. And I'm like, no, that's stupid. Don't do that. You need to make more active income. Like, that's how your life's going to change. Your life is not changing from this $200 a month you're about to go get. Okay. In fact,
if you make that much.
Yeah. I'm like, in fact, it's actually going to add way more stress to your life, because when you have vacancy, when you have a repair, bro, no, you ain't ready for that. All right. Like, you need to make active income. So that's number one. I think most people need to figure out how to make more active income.
This is the Mr. Brrrr Show.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I am so excited about this episode today. Just off camera, I was telling the man I had to come with my A game with my hair, because most of you probably know this man from his amazing head of hair that he puts colors in and all kinds of crazy stuff, which I know why he does it. We'll talk about that, but he's an expert at content. He's an expert at real estate. He's an expert at coaching. He's flipped couches. He's flipped cell phones. He's flipped real estate. You name it. The man is an absolute juggernaut when it comes to content and how to monetize that content. So, guys, I feel like I'm pretty good at it, but this man takes it to another level. So, without further ado, Ryan Pineda, welcome to the show, brother.
What's up? Good to see you again, man. Yeah, I'm trying a new hairstyle today, just for fun. We'll do a new split test.
I saw you actually put a post up about it. You're like, do you guys think I should roll with this hairstyle? What was the consensus?
It was 50-50, which was surprising, because most people don't like change, right? And so 50-50 is actually very high. And the post got like crazy amounts of views. Like, it had like 35,000 story views. And I was like, all right, well.
Dude, do you have this? I always have this thing where I can never understand. Some posts or some stories get like a crazy amount of views, and the ones you want to get a lot of views don't get any views. I can't figure it out, bro.
Yeah, no, my average story views are usually 10,000 to 15,000, and so to see 35,000 because I did my hair like this, I'm like, all right, you know what? Let's see what happens. Because I actually think it looks cool too. So I'm just like, I'm always trying new things. That's just like my life, period. So why not?
Yeah. Well, most people know you, man. If they don't, they've been under a rock. So for the ones that don't, let's give them kind of the cliff notes, the elevator pitch, like who you are, what you do.
Yeah, the cliff notes are, I'm an ex-pro baseball player. I played in the minor leagues for 8 years. I got drafted by the Oakland A's in 2010. Started doing real estate while I was playing, because in the minor leagues, you make no money. The most I ever made in a season was $7,000 for a year. That was the most I made, period. And so I had to figure out how to make money to survive and keep living the dream. So, I started out as a realtor, hated it, did it for a couple of years and failed. Started doing other hustles, like you mentioned, flipping couches, cell phones. I was a substitute teacher. I was doing everything you can imagine, man.
I didn't know that. Substitute teacher, really?
Yeah, I did a lot. And,
wow.
2015, I started flipping houses, and that became the thing that was like really successful. And, ended up to this point, we've done over 700 flips between.
Wow.
Majority are normal, just we buy them, fix them up, and flip them. But we started to wholesale a lot more recently. So that was that. And then, that led to just more and more opportunities. People started to know me. And so I opened up a brokerage, and we built it to 200 realtors, opened up a tax firm because everybody wanted to get help with that, built that to a multi-million-dollar company. And then, started doing education, like you mentioned. And that became an 8-figure business, got on social media, had business flops along the way. And, dude, just, I would have never imagined I'm at where I'm at today, but, it's been good.
Heck yeah. Well, Dude, one thing that I love about your content, and a lot of people don't know this, but like my content, I kind of mirrored after yours when I first got into making content. I got into it end of 2020 during COVID.
Yep.
And I just started like thinking, okay, so I should study the people that are doing well, right? So I just started watching some of your stuff would pop up, and I would just be like, okay, well, he does this. He has a hook. He does some visual things. He changes backgrounds. Every sentence he's changing something about the video. So I took all those things in and I implemented it into my content. But one thing I really love about your content, even now, is you keep things super simple, right? Can you speak to that and how important that is when you're building content?
Yeah, I think you got to talk to everyone like they're a third grader, and it's not anyone's fault, but it's just that's the way the world is. You could try to prove you're very intellectual by speaking that way, but at the end of the day, I'm just trying to talk to as many people as possible. So smart people don't care if you speak at a third grade level, but people who can't understand what you're saying do. So that's
right.
The way to speak. And then, yeah, I just think too, I'm a guy who doesn't waste time. Like I get to the point. And so I'm thinking about the simplest way to get the message across that I'm trying to get across. And, I think when you look at the most successful companies in the world, simplicity is what drives them. I remember reading stories about Steve Jobs and the iPhone and the iPod and how he just was like striving to make it as simple as humanly possible. Hey, do we really even need a button? All these other phones have buttons. Do we need it? Can we make it simple? Can we do it without buttons? Great. Okay. How many clicks does it take to make this action happen? Can we do it with just one click? Because right now it takes 5. All right, we can't do it with 1. Can we do it with 2? Right? So he's always thinking about the simplest way to do something. And I think the same way.
I love that, man. I used to work for Quicken Loans before I got into being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So I did mortgages, and Quicken Loans had what's called isms. It's kind of like their beliefs, right? They had 18 of them. One of them is simplicity is genius. I still remember all of them to this day. Simplicity is genius. And it really is. If you think about it, the simpler you keep something, the easier it is for the masses to take it in and understand it, right?
Yeah.
Like, dude, I would talk about infinite banking with people, and my videos where it's just super simple, boom, 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 they'd blow up. And then I'm like, I need to get into the weeds of like really some complex stuff of how to use it. And dude, I'd get like 200 views.
Yeah, I can see everything about flipping a house at the deepest level, but then it's just like, people don't care. They just want to get the big picture of how it works. And then, when you're ready to actually start taking action, then yeah, let's actually go into the details once you're at that point.
Yeah. And it comes with everything, right? Like wholesaling. I know you do a lot of wholesaling still, right?
Yeah.
So wholesaling, you can overcomplicate it, or you can keep it really simple. So the simplest way for you to explain wholesaling to somebody, what would it be?
I can explain it in 1 minute, So think about flipping a house. You get it under contract, you buy it, you fix it up, you flip it, you make a profit. Wholesaling takes away half of that, right? You get a property under contract, but instead of buying it, you just sell the contract to the person who does want to fix it up and flip it. And you got to leave enough meat on the bone that the deal still makes sense for them, but you're able to just go make a fee for putting that deal together.
So simple. Like it sounds like anyone could do it. Most people will say though, most people say, you've probably heard this excuse a million times. I don't have the money, right? That's what's kind of sexy about wholesaling. You don't need a lot of money, right? But you need to be able to find the deal. So I know with you were really good at finding deals on couches. That's how it all started, right? You'd find a good deal on a couch and sell it for a little more. So talk about with wholesaling, how you are finding deals today and how you were finding them in the past.
Yeah, great question. So it's evolved. I've been on, let's say, the wholesale flip game for 10 years now. And back then, 2015, when I first started, I got all my deals off the MLS, which is just on the market. I just made offers on properties that I thought were undervalued, and So I got deals. So it didn't cost me anything. I just had to find the money to go buy it. And, for me, I got a mix of hard money loans. I would max out my credit cards. I would do whatever it took to buy it. So that was one. Then I started to understand the power of like referrals and network. And so even though I wasn't like a big social media guy, I'd be on Facebook and I would cold DM realtors and wholesalers and other guys. And I'd be like, hey, my name's Ryan. I'm a cash buyer looking for flips. Here's some deals I've done if you want to just look into if I'm credible. And, I'd love to do a deal. If you ever get one, I'll happy to pay you. I don't really care what you make. You can make $100,000 as long as the deal makes sense on my end. And if you're a realtor, you can make double commission. So you can represent me as the buyer. And so I got a lot of deals that way, just doing networking and outreach. And then in 2018, I got into direct to seller marketing, which is, now you're spending money to get in front of sellers. And so, at that time I was doing cold calling and texting, and those were the main things. Did that for a couple of years. So we call that outbound marketing, right? Where we're just reaching out to people who have no idea about why we're reaching out until we tell them, hey, you want to sell your house, right? Then 2020, I started doing inbound marketing through TV commercials and pay-per-click. And so I ran that model for 4 years, and I spent millions of dollars running TV commercials, and it was great, man. We made a great return, made millions of dollars, got lots of deals just through TV and PPC. Today, in 2024, I'm now pretty much all social media. So I run Facebook ads for direct to seller, and those are giving us great results. And that actually led to me starting my newest company. It's called Lead Kitchen, where we run my ads in other people's markets and do their marketing for them.
So you don't do any more TV ads, nothing like that?
Not anymore.
Just cost too much, or?
Yeah. So the reason that even like I started, so basically with the last 10 years, the reason I always switch is because one starts to get too saturated. You can just see the return starting to go down because people are always jumping on trends when it comes to marketing, right? So
Texting was one, and
yeah, like, and social media is no different. TikTok 4 years ago was way easier to break in than today. So you got to constantly be ahead of the trend. So for me, with TV, dude, in 2020, nobody was doing it. They thought I was an idiot. And they're like, bro, nobody's like, TV's dying. And I'm like, whatever, man, we'll see.
I'm cashing these checks.
Yeah. And so I did it for years. And then all of a sudden, obviously people take note because people know what I do and I talk about it. And so, there started to be way more TV commercials, guys running commercials in my market. And I could just see that it was starting to get more costly and conversions were going down. There was more competition. So, if a lead, when I first started doing TV, was like $200 to $300, by the time I was done, we were looking at $500 to $800, and PPC is like $800 a lead here in Vegas. And so I'm like, dude, this math, it ain't going to work out very long. Like, this is trending the wrong way. And, wholesale fees and everything aren't rising with this trend. So we're going to have to figure out something else. And so, I had spent millions of dollars on Facebook ads for my other businesses, for education, for events, for WealthCon, for services. So I knew how to make ads and content and run and do media buying and copywriting. Like, I already knew all that. And I said, dude, what would happen if I actually did this for my house flipping company? I've never thought about it because it's always been totally fine doing what we're doing. So in January, I went down this journey and started running my own ads. And, obviously wasn't perfect in the beginning. We had to go through trial and error and all these different things. But after a few months, I figured it out. And I was like, holy crap. Like, we're getting leads now for $200 inbound, versus $800. And there's still competition as far as when we talk to a seller, like sellers, they have multiple offers all the time, no matter what you're doing. But these other people are paying $800 to talk to that seller. And I knew that for a fact because I knew what they were doing. So I'm like, okay, we have a huge competitive advantage here. And, it's been great. That's what we do now. And then it's so hard to do on social media because you and I both know how hard content is. Like, I got to make ads every week.
It's a full-time job.
It's all the time. And my media team is so good at production and video. My marketing team is good at media buying, at copywriting. So like, I already know we have like a huge competitive advantage that no one else has, at least in the real estate industry for house flipping, right?
So talk about that, because again, I always kind of go back to Quicken. I worked there, and it actually gave me a lot of what I implement in my business today. Those isms, like I was telling you. And one of them is being obsessed with finding a better way to do things. Another one is always raising your level of awareness. So you were aware of where the trend was going with those different things. Talk about how important that is as a business owner, like being aware of your industry and where it's going so you can pivot on a dime.
You have to be, man. I mean, look, everything's always changing. If you're not looking towards the future and you're not trying to grow, you will die. Like, growth is not for the sake of like, we want to be bigger and better. It's for the sake of even just staying in business.
Right.
Because you won't even stay in business if you're not growing. And so I've seen real estate investors the last 10 years come in and out of this industry because they fail to grow. They fail to figure out what's going to be the next way to market. You know, what are new exit strategies we could do to maximize profits better? And you know, that's just every industry, period. And it's the same thing with social media, man. It's like, oh man, views are down. Like, what's going on? These algorithms are blocking me. And it's like, no, they're not. The reality is the market is different. There's 3 times more content being made, period, than there was 2 years ago. And we're not talking just like Instagram posts or YouTube videos. We're talking content as a whole, because that is what we're competing against. You know, when people decide whether or not to watch my stuff, it's not they're deciding between me and some other guy. They're deciding between me and Netflix and YouTube and TikTok and Amazon and whatever else, like TV, sports games. That's what they're deciding against. And there's far more supply of content today than there was 3 years ago. So the question becomes, well, if I want to even maintain the amount of views and everything I have, that means I got to get 3 times better, or put out 3 times the amount of content, or do, you know, whatever the case is, right? And so I'm aware of that. But if you're not aware of it and you're just wondering why views are down, and you're thinking that it's simply, oh, dude, like, is my content worth? It's like, yeah, sure, your content might need to be updated. But the reality is you're not even aware of the market that's changing around you.
You know, what's funny is and don't take this the wrong way, but you're probably one of the main reasons for that problem. Because, dude, there's been so many videos. I remember one where there was this dude that went super viral. He's like on a skateboard. There's some music. He drinks like a cranberry juice.
Yeah.
And you made a stitched video. You're like, look, this guy is crushing it by just putting out content. You're one of 2 people. You're either putting content out or you're consuming it.
Yeah. You're a creator or consumer.
Yeah. You can create it and monetize it, or you can just consume it. You decide. I remember seeing one of your videos like that back in the day, and I'm like, he's the reason why so many people are creating content. Thanks a lot, Brian. Thanks a lot, bro.
Hey, if it wasn't me, somebody else would have said it. And so either way, the result would have been the same. So my thing is just this, dude. Like, at the end of the day, I don't mind telling people like what's happening, right? So it's like people might have heard what I just said for the first time about, well, bro, like there's 3 times the amount of content being made. Like, and there's going to be content creators like, I didn't even think about that. Because I'm so focused on my stuff that I didn't even realize what's happening around me.
Right.
Yeah, dude, your stuff is probably the same caliber. It didn't change. It's just the surrounding changed. So, you know, for me though, like, I know that if I just give value and help people, they'll work with me at some point in some way, or they'll tell somebody about me who will then work with me in some point in some way. And I just enjoy it. Like, I feel like anytime I learn something new, I like want to share it with people. And then somehow, some way, it always comes back, you know, like this whole Facebook marketing thing for real estate investors, you know, like I just started telling my students about it. I was like, guys, I'm going to solve this freaking problem. I'm tired of paying so much for leads. And, you know, I'm sharing it with them as I'm going through it for months. Like, literally, I'm like, hey, I tried this, I tried that. This is what I'm doing now. This is that. And then, like, Sure enough, they saw the progression, and then a bunch were like, hey, can you just do it for me? Be okay. And I'm like, all right, And so now, like, we run a really interesting model that nobody else runs, where it's like, hey, we'll run my ad, everything, your market, you cover the marketing cost, right? But we'll do everything. You just got to be good at closing deals. And we just want 20%. That's it. And people are like, that's fair. That's more than fair. All right, cool. Let's give it a try. And but once again, that just came because I was sharing. Like, if I was a secretive guy, I wouldn't tell anybody what kind of marketing I'm doing. I'd keep it behind closed doors. That's what a lot of investors do. It's what a lot of, companies do. It's like, dude, I got the secret sauce, dude. I can't let anyone find out like what I'm actually doing. I don't want anyone coming in my market doing the same thing. And it's like, nah, dude. Like, for me, I just believe that this is, call it cockiness or what. I just believe that even if I tell you what I'm going to do, I'm still better. So it doesn't matter.
You can't do it as well anyways. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. And it also comes from not having a scarcity mindset. There's more than enough out there. Dude, the federal government prints trillions of dollars. Like, there's more than enough money. There's more than enough everything.
100%.
So, dude, I listened to you and I'm like, dude, such a sharp guy, like young. You're 34?
Just turned 35. Yeah.
Oh, dude, halfway to 70. Never meant. I recant my statement.
Life insurance.
But dude, at 35, man, I had just became a millionaire at 35. So it's like, you're so far ahead of the game. And I want to kind of take a step back and talk about maybe some struggles, because there's people that hear someone like yourself, hear someone like me, and they're like, yeah, you guys just kind of had it given to you or whatnot. No, like you said it yourself, as a professional baseball player, you're making what, $1,200-$1,300 a month. Like, you can't live on that. So let's talk about kind of the struggles and how you got to this point. Like, what kind of was what propelled you to where you're at today?
Yeah. I mean, look, right? Anytime you want to do something new, it comes with sacrifice, no matter what, right? So you're not making enough money. So you're like, dude, I'm thinking about real estate. I'm thinking about this thing. Like, you're looking at new opportunities. And very few people just quit their thing and go all in on this new unproven thing, right? So you're going to have basically you're working two jobs, essentially. You're trying to build your business. You're doing whatever you currently do for income. For me, like I said, the most I ever made in a year was $7,000. So I don't know many people that have
until what age?
I was 28 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, like, this ain't no, like, people don't understand like my origin story fully. Like, they hear the baseball and the fast rise. I'm like, no, you don't get it. My entire 20s, I made $7,000 a year pursuing my dream. That's what I did. How many of you are willing to go pursue something for $7,000 a year for 8 years straight and then not even have it work out, right? I mean, like, when it comes to whether or not somebody will give up or what they're willing to do, I mean, I had to go on bus rides, 100 plus games a year and 100 games a year in 108 days. We had to go bus ride, 24-hour trips, stay in motels. I did that for 8 years straight, right? And then I was married, didn't have money, had to figure out how to provide for my wife. So I go flip 1,000 couches, in strangers' home, like, doing this stuff. This is my 20s, And so, like, people who say, dude, like, I can't do it, man. You don't get it. I got this job and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, bro, you're soft. You are just soft. You don't want it bad enough. You actually want to do something great. I'm going to tell you the cost. This was what my 20s looked like. And because I did that, now everything seems easy. It really does.
It was sacrifice. What were you willing to sacrifice during your 20s, right?
Yeah. And here's the thing. I don't even look at it like I was sacrificing. That's why I don't even tell that story and try to make it seem like, dude, I was working hard. Like, clearly I was, but it wasn't even a sacrifice. Like, to me, it was like, bro, I love playing baseball. I ain't quitting this. I am going to do whatever it takes to get to the bigs. I have unwavering belief that it's going to happen. But even if it doesn't, I'm going to still enjoy the moment and go through this, right? And then on the side, in the off season, I'm going to go figure out how to make money some way, somehow. And I'm going to try lots of things until something sticks. Oh, being a realtor didn't work out. Oh, flipping phones wasn't like scalable. Oh, flipping couches has been great, but man, I've like hit the limit. It's like pretty much is what it is. Oh, this house flipping thing's interesting. I got to bet everything and every dollar I've saved to see if it even works. But if it does, the reward is immense. And then it did.
Did you go to college, get a degree?
Yeah, I have an economics degree.
Okay. Because when you're saying all this, I start thinking about like the average American. The average American is taught, go to school, get a good job, work up the corporate ladder, put money in your 401k, save up for retirement. Hopefully you have enough to retire, right? That's not what you did. You didn't like go chase a career. You were just trying to, correct me if I'm wrong, just make ends meet.
Literally.
While you're trying to live your dream of becoming a professional baseball player.
1,000%. That was exactly what I was trying to do.
Dude, and through that, what you did is you built a lot of skills that now translate in business, right? So like my daughter, she's 16, and I try to give her as much knowledge as I can, but because it's coming from me, I think it just goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
You know? If someone else said the exact same words in the exact same tone, the exact same way, it'd probably stick. But like, I don't think going to college really is necessary. You know?
I only went to play baseball. That was the only reason I went. I've never used my degree.
Yeah. So it's like, you didn't take the traditional route, basically, is what I'm saying. And because of that, you're immensely successful at 35 years old. And just 8 years prior, you were making $7,000 a year. Dude, that's incredible. So like, what's next for you? Do you have like kind of an end game, what you're like aiming towards? What's next?
No end game. The game never ends. For me, every day, I just want to get better at whatever it is I'm doing and pursuing. I want to, be a great husband, be a great father, be a great man of God, serve, do the best things I can, build great businesses, be a great boss. Like the goal for me is just continue to get better every day. I want to be a great golfer, I want to get better at that too. So, there's no end. But as far as like business goes, I will say, even though I still have a lot of things going on, it's much more simple today. I think most everything I do is real estate related beyond our nonprofit. So, I like that there's the simplicity in that.
Has it always been like that? Have you always, because you're vertically integrated with real estate, basically, right?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't always like that. I've done other businesses too. So, and I like the hard part for me is like when you get good, you're talented enough to figure it out. And so I've started lots of 7-figure businesses, at least 8 or 9 at this point. And we're only talking in the last 6 years. So, for me, I've kind of realized now as an entrepreneur that, this thing of going deeper is better at the end of the day. And as a guy who likes to try new things and challenge himself, that was a hard thing to learn, but I've learned it. And so now I'm like, okay, how do we make our house flipping business even better? What's the next stage for education? What do these investors need?
What made you learn that? Just to stop trying to do everything and just really double down on what's the main thing?
I think it came from just actually doing lots of things and seeing the headaches with that. It came from enough people who are way more successful than me in business telling me it enough times that, and to see their results over the years to say, okay, like clearly this person's results are going really crazy because they're focusing on just one thing. And honestly, that's what kind of even led to the, lead generation company where it's like, okay, let's say I only focused on this, right? Let's say I didn't even entertain any other ideas, even though I love ideas. Like what's the upside of this, right? And you start running the numbers and and you're like, okay, I mean, we already have, lots of clients today. Let's say we had hundreds of clients. What if I was making, say I had 500 clients and I was making 20% off 500 different people, and they're having success doing deals. I mean, you'd be making millions per month and the net would be extremely high. And then to another degree, okay, that's doing that, but like, what's that company even worth at that point? Could you have a 9-figure exit? Okay. Yeah. All right. What could you do if that happened? Like, what could I do with that amount of like upfront capital all at once? And so you start playing this rabbit hole down your mind and it becomes clear. You're like, why would I do anything else? This is stupid. Like, why would I, there's no opportunity that is even close to this. And it's, it's the same realization that I've had over the years, because I've had no problem shutting things down that either weren't working or weren't worth my time, right? So like I had a real estate brokerage with 200 agents. I shut it down because not that it wasn't making money, it just was not worth my time. It no longer was scalable. Flipping couches was great at that time. I was making $8,000 a month, but it no longer was worth my time when I learned how to flip houses. And so I think you just kind of got to evolve and always look at your situation and say, is this, worth my time now? Whether it's making money. If it's not making money, then there's a good chance it's probably not, right? That one's easy to stop, right? But for me, it's like, wow, this is such a big opportunity. And I have like all the current customers. I'm training students. And then one day they can, start using the service whenever they're ready. Like, so I'm not even gonna have a problem getting customers. And it's like, wow, everything's just right there for the taking if I just choose to focus.
So 2 things. One, was it easy to walk away from baseball? That wasn't working, right? Clearly you weren't making it to the big leagues.
Exactly.
Was that easy?
I would say, so to take a step back, when I was 20, I was about to be 24 years old. I'd spent 3 seasons with the Oakland A's and they released me during spring training. And that was literally the hardest moment of my life. Because, I'm 24 years old, I'm engaged, and basically they're like, you're not good enough to be a big leaguer. And, you got to remember, man, when you're coming up your entire life being the man.
You're the best on every team you're on. And
yeah, dude. And they're like, you're not good enough. It's like, wow, I've never been told that. That's crazy. Granted, you're going to have people who are haters, whatever else, but you feel through that. But no, they're like, no, dude, like you don't have a job. And nobody's signing you because nobody wanted me. And I was like, wow, that was the first time I would say I was ever truly like depressed. I was like, what am I going to do with my life? Because at this point I had no success beyond baseball. I failed as a realtor. I hadn't figured out how to flip couches or any of the stuff. I wasn't flipping houses. I'm engaged. So that was like a really brutal point in my life. But God had a plan, and I ended up signing with another team about a month later, and I played 5 more seasons. And during those 5 seasons is when I learned to become a true entrepreneur, because during that time I was like, all right, well, every year I play baseball and I'm not in the bigs means I'm actually a step further away. Like I'm getting closer to the door, right? Unlike business, sports has a lifespan. The older you get, you're almost out. You're just one step closer to the door. Every year I get better in business is the opposite. Every year I'm in business, I keep getting better. And like, I'm getting closer and closer to my prime. So it's this weird thing, right? And, with that, thankfully, during those 5 years, I kept getting better at business. Real estate kept getting bigger for me. And by the time I was in my last season, it was 2017. Like I said, I was 28 years old. I had like 20 flips going on while I was out playing. And I was like, yeah, dude, it was crazy, because I'd be in the clubhouse writing emails and texting agents and like checking on contractors and making offers. It was crazy, dude. And
now you're like oiling up your glove and...
Oh, bro, I'm like stretching, getting ready, like answering email. Dude, it was nuts. And my teammates are like, bro, you're crazy. I cannot believe like you're doing all that and about to go play this game. So it was a crazy time. And what happened that year was I was having my worst year ever. And because I was just so stressed out from everything. But I wasn't going to quit. I was like, dude, I'm not a quitter. I'm not quitting on my team. Like, this will be my last year for sure. Like, I can't do this anymore. And I've played 8 seasons. Like, I can go to bed and live the rest of my life knowing I gave it my all. Like, the worst thing I would have ever had was regret. And if I only played, say, 3 seasons and I said, oh, let me just go get a job and do this thing, and then I for sure would have had regret down the road. Like, man, I really should have just like tried to play another season and see what happens. So anyways, what happened during that last year was I got released about halfway through the year. And I did get a couple of calls to keep playing. I was like, nah, I'm good, dude. I'm going home. And like, I'm going to actually start the next stage of my life.
At 28. Yeah. So at 24, that's when you got cut, right?
Yeah,
and you said that you kind of were in a depressed state,
Yeah.
but that only lasted for a month, right?
Yeah.
So speak on that, because I know there's so many people out there that struggle with depression and struggle with just mental health. And I honestly think it's a lot of just the lens that you look at things through. And I know that you're a big believer in Christ, so that helps a lot, I'm sure.
Yep.
But speak to how like you didn't stay in that depressed state for long.
Yeah. I mean, look, dude, we're always going to have setbacks. And so, you know, for me, that was obviously a huge setback, because it was like, you know, like, here's the thing. Like, a lot of people, they live with regret because they feel like they messed up and missed their shot, right? And we as business guys, we're like, no, dude, like, there's so many shots you can take. You didn't miss anything. But like in sports, you truly do miss your shot. Like, there's a lifespan, and once it's done, it's done. And so I was like, wow, you know, this is over. And, you know, I spent a couple of weeks just figuring out, like, also too, my identity was wrapped up in baseball. So like, you know, going to my parents and my fiance's parents and my friends and everything. And nobody's like, this is all in my mind, by the way. I'm like, wow, what a failure. What are people going to think about me?
But no one's thinking that. That's just what you're, yeah.
Yeah, it's all me. And, you know, my now wife is like, look, you know, yeah, it's gonna be fine. Whatever we do. But, you know, just God will reveal a way, right? And because we've always had faith. And so, literally, about, like I said, 3 weeks pass, nothing. I'm just like literally deciding what I want to do with my life. I'm literally like looking at careers and jobs because I didn't know what to do. I was like, well, if I don't play baseball and I don't want to be a realtor, what do I do? So I literally applied for jobs during this period. This is the only time I've ever applied for a job in my life. And I didn't even get any interviews or anything. And I was like, wow, getting a job's like way harder than I thought. I got an economics degree. I thought I'd be like the best candidate ever. I'm freaking a pro baseball guy. Like, I got a cool track record. Nope.
But this is like 2012.
Yeah.
So yeah, different time when it comes to jobs.
I mean, dude, we were coming out of the recession and all that stuff. Like, it was not like today, right? No social media, like ways to go about just getting intros, and like I was on monster.com trying to get a job.
I used to work for Monster.
Okay. So that's what I was doing. But anyways, one team called me and he was like, hey, you want to come play for us? We're in Fargo, North Dakota. We're part of an independent baseball league. And, you know, we've had people get back into, you know, affiliated baseball. You know, we had 3 people do it last year. You know, if you have a good year, there's a chance you could get signed again. I was like, nah. Like, at that, like, my pride was like, nah, dude, like, if I ain't good enough to play in affiliated baseball right now, then I don't even want to play. I don't want to play in this other league. And I said that to him. And he goes, okay, but if you change your mind, let me know, because we got 1 spot left. And, you know, I've heard great things about you. And so, you know, I told him no. And my mom, my wife, everybody was like, Ryan, you should play. You already trained. You're ready. Like, why not give it 1 more year? At least have a proper last year. So finally, I was like, I don't know. I already told him no. I don't really want to come crawling back. And then he calls me one more time, like a week later. He's like, hey, like this is the last time I'm going to call you. So if you want to do it, I got to know. And I was just like, you know what? Let's do it. So I packed my bags and went to Fargo, North Dakota a couple of days later. And I ended up playing for 5 more years after that. And so it was kind of crazy, but it was almost nothing. And so that's why I say, you know, God really intervened because those 5 years really allowed me to have closure with the sport. It gave me, like, my wife and I, like I said, we loved every minute of that journey. You know, she got to travel with me for 5 years, living in different cities. Even though we weren't making money, we didn't think we were broke. Like, we were just living a dream. And, you know, every step of the way, whether I was flipping couches or houses or doing social media crap or throwing big events, my happiness and my joy hasn't changed. Like, it's been the same.
That's one thing I like about you, man, is you're very authentic. You're someone that comes across as like the person you are on social media is just the person you are. You're not trying to be someone you're not. And you're not driven by the money, so to speak, right? Like, money's great. Money buys things that you want, but happiness is not tied up in those material things. Happiness comes from being around the people you love and care about. And to your point, you're traveling around with your wife around the country, living out a dream of potentially making it to the big leagues. Like, that's awesome. That's freaking awesome.
It was awesome. And that's why I say I always look fondly at it, and I'd never talk about it in a negative light. I only use it as an example, even though it was hard. Like, I use it as an example to put people in perspective, where I'm like, guys, on the outside, this was my situation. I made $7,000 a year for 8 years trying to make it. And I had to figure out what to do beyond that to provide for my newlywed wife. And I go, so don't make excuses that you can't get into real estate. You can't start a business. You can't making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. Give me a break, dude.
Yeah.
You know, you're in debt because you make bad choices. That's why you're in debt.
That's the problem, man. People make 50, 60, 70.
Wait, I wasn't in debt. When I was making $7,000 a year, I was not in debt. I didn't have credit card debt or anything. That's how I was able to max out my credit cards to buy a flip. So clearly, like, we lived so frugally, it was insane. We didn't buy anything, and we were still happy.
You guys are still kind of like that, aren't you?
So I'll say this. We were always super frugal, even as we became millionaires and all that stuff. Then I would say around 2021, I was like, we got to actually start enjoying wealth. Like, I think 2021 or 2022 is the first time I ever flew first class.
Oh, the year. I thought you meant at 21 years old.
No. 2021, 2022.
Okay.
Right? That was like the first year I ever flew first class. You know, we started to eat at nice restaurants and, you know, buy some nice stuff, buy a nice car, you know, have a Louis Vuitton bag. Like, we never had any of that for a long time. And then,
good.
Yeah, it was great. And then when things softened in the real estate market and there was, you know, interest rates and all this crap, you know, I got hammered. I was like, dude, we need to get back to the basics. Like, clearly we still have a, you know, great life. We don't like live cheap. I'm not driving a Toyota Corolla, you know, and just whatever. But I'm like, dude, we don't need the material things. Like, we don't need freaking bags. We don't need multiple cars. We don't need any of this stuff. Like, let's just buy the things that we actually want. And for us, that would be experiences. We love going on vacation,
traveling.
We love, you know, treating people, you know, and doing dinners and cool stuff like that. And that's really good. Like, I don't really care about the rest of the stuff.
Yeah. One thing I will say is, don't fly first class, everyone. If you've never done it, don't fly first class unless you want to be jaded to never go back to economy again. The second I flew first class, man, I couldn't go back. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, man.
Dude, you know what's funny? So this back to perspective. So I spent 8 years traveling on buses in motels. So, like, literally I slept on buses. I mean, like, I don't even know how many nights I spent on a bus. Like, let's just do the math. I mean, at least like 100 nights I've spent on a bus, like sleeping. And then, you know, I probably spent a few hundred nights in motels. And, you know, the rest of the time was in a little rinky-dink apartment while we were playing or with a host family, you know? And so, like, my travel situation, I don't give a crap. It's my wife that has the first class problem. So, like, when I go to, dude, I'll go to Miami. You're in Miami, right? Or where are you at?
Phoenix.
Oh, you're in Phoenix. Okay. I was just in Phoenix like 2 weeks ago. I flew Southwest. But like, I'll go to Miami and stuff and I'll go red eye it. I don't give a crap. I'll be like, all right, you know what? I want to be the least of time away from my family. So like I go to Miami a few times a year, and I'll fly out like red eye midnight. I'll sleep on the plane. It's like 5 hours. When I get there, it's like 8 a.m. because of the time change. And I'm like, all right, let's do the day. And then, like whatever I do that day in Miami. And usually I'll fly back the same day, whatever. For me, I just don't care.
Eventually, you just got to get yourself a PJ.
I know, dude. But then, even then, like, you look at the cost, even my like frugal self looks at it and I'm like, I just don't care. Like I've flown private jets before. So like dude, they're cool. Don't get me wrong. I love them. But I don't travel enough for my own to ever need my own. But then, you even look at the cost, like a private jet from Vegas to Miami, it's like $80,000.
Yeah.
It's like,
you can turn it into an asset. I know our friend, Greg Herleen has one, and he's got one. It's crazy, man. I was digging into this, and when you buy a jet, you can put a down payment, let's say 20%. So let's say the jet's a $10 million jet. You put 20% down, $2 million. You get a bank loan for $8 million. You could write off the entire purchase price of the jet.
Yeah.
So you're writing off $10 million, but you only spent $2 million. Crazy.
That's crazy.
And then, what he does is he charters the plane. So basically, when he's not using it, he's making money off the plane from people actually chartering it and buying it and flying it places.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I've heard people doing that. I'm just like, it's just another headache. I'm trying to simplify my life. I'm trying to get, the real estate stuff going. And then like, if I exit for 100 million, then all right, cool.
That's true. So let's tell the listeners like the easiest way to get into real estate. The progression is probably always going to be wholesaling. And then you'll probably get into some flips and maybe some buy and holds. But like, what's the easiest way to get into real estate in your opinion? Would it be wholesaling?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways, obviously, to do real estate. But yeah, here's the thing. I wouldn't say the easiest. I want to say let's just say the best. So for me, I have a big problem when there are people who aren't making very much money. So in this case, let's say less than 100K, and they got families and other things. And they're like, dude, I want to buy some rental properties and get some passive income. And I'm like, no, that's stupid. Don't do that. I'm like, you need to make more active income. Like that's how your life's going to change. Your life is not changing from this $200 a month you're about to go get. Okay. In fact,
if you make that much.
Yeah. I'm like, in fact, it's actually going to add way more stress to your life because when you have vacancy, when you have a repair, bro, no, you ain't ready for that. All right. I'm like, you need to make active income. So that's number one. I think most people need to figure out how to make more active income. Now, if you're already making freaking $250K, $500,000, then okay. You're living pretty decent, so let's just now focus on, buying rentals because you don't want to like make more. That's fine. Cool. But for anyone who's not making enough money, do not buy a rental, please. Okay. That being said.
Such wise advice, guys. Rewind that and listen to that again and again and again.
Yeah.
Because rentals are, people say passive income. It's passive income. Oh my God, it's anything but passive income, especially if you're dealing with Airbnbs. Oh.
No, well, Airbnbs, that's definitely not passive. So, yeah, at that point now, okay, great. So I want to make some active income. I think flipping and wholesaling are both great. The reason I teach flipping is, obviously that's how I got started. It's what's been my bread and butter for a long time. But the main reason I teach it is because it gives you all the skills to become a great real estate investor overall, right? Because when you flip a house, you got to do three things really well. Number one, you got to find great deals. So that is a skill that every part of real estate needs. If you can find great deals, that's where you make money. You don't make money any other way. Two is you then got to raise money to go buy the deal. And so, once again, if you want to buy rentals, if you want to buy flips, you got to know how to raise money. Now, if you're wholesaling, you don't need to. But once again, right, you want to be a great all-around investor, you got to know how to raise money. And then the third thing is construction. You got to understand how to get homes fixed, what they should cost, how you find contractors, how you manage them. Flipping teaches you that. If you're going to buy rentals, you got to know construction. You're going to have to fix up stuff. You're going to have to do all that, right? Wholesalers, they don't need to know that. Wholesalers really just got to know how to find great deals, which is awesome. That's what makes it, in your words, easier. But flipping makes you an amazing all-around investor, because at the end of the day, now you have options. I find this deal. I buy it. I raise the money. I fix it up. You have choices. Like either sell it and make your money, or refi and keep it as a rental. You could do whatever. And then you want to do multifamily one day? Great. Find deals, raise money, get the units stabilized. It's the same thing. So
just so you guys know, when I say easier, there's nothing easy about it. Like, to do wholesaling, you got to make a lot of calls. You got to send out a lot of mailers. You got to be scouring social media. That's how I did mine at first. I didn't do any marketing. I just would look in Facebook groups for deals. That's all I do. I would go and walk around potential deals, put them on my stories. So perception's reality. People thought I was an investor. I hadn't even done a deal yet. But I'm like, I'm going to buy this house. I think I'm going to tear this wall down. So like, you just have to, you have to do a lot of work. So it's not easy. But I think you're 100% correct, man. Is like, if you flip a house, you get so many more skills than just wholesaling.
Yeah.
So
I would also say that I would even argue that flipping is easier than wholesaling. And people would say, well, what do you mean? You got to do way more. And I'm like, well, not necessarily, right? Because if you're wholesaling, it's very rare that you're going to be able to use wholesalers, because there's not enough meat on the bone. You can absolutely, what we would call co-wholesale, and go find a buyer for another wholesaler, but it's usually very small money, and it's harder, in my opinion. It's actually a lot harder. I know for a fact it's harder because we do it. So really, and then the hard part about wholesaling is you got to get it even deeper of a discount than you would flipping, because you got to make your spread to be able to sell it to the flipper. Right. So the flippers have an advantage in that they actually don't need to go knock all these doors and spend all this money on marketing and everything else. They can just buy from the wholesaler, and they can pay more for a property if they were talking to a seller or they are talking to a realtor. And so I think that actually getting a deal is easier when you're a flipper, because you can pay more and all those things. But then you just have a different type of problem now. You got to go get money and fix it up and all that. But like, that's how I started. My first 80, 100 deals, I didn't wholesale at all. I just flipped them all, because I was totally content buying from wholesalers, buying from agents and all that.
So you knew when it was a good deal. So you buy the deal, you raise the capital. What are some ways for people to raise capital?
Lots of ways, man. I mean, dude, you're doing the infinite banking. And so there's a lot of guys who, have those kind of plans, who got money and they're willing to lend it. So I think that finding guys from like your network and stuff are huge. So, people got money in those life insurance plans and stuff. People got money at the country clubs. They got money at business events. They got, there's so many people who got money. And in fact, today it's easier than ever to raise money. If you have any kind of social media, like I've raised millions of dollars on social media. I was actually looking at our records the other day, and it was a good stat. Like, I didn't know we had crossed this, but for me, I have paid back over $100 million of capital borrowed. Wow. So like, I was like, wow, that's a good achievement to borrow that much money from both private, institutional, whatever, and to have already paid it back and returned it with interest,
That's incredible, dude. So I think it's really important, and you can probably speak to this, is when you're trying to raise capital, there's a common misconception that people think, oh, no one's got money. No one's got any money, which is just the most asinine thing ever. Because as I said before, trillions of dollars are printed by the federal government.
I think there's 19 trillion.
Crazy. And people can't even fathom how much a trillion really is.
Yeah.
Like, I was reading something that $1 million in dollar bills stacked on top of each other is 16 inches high of $100 bills.
Okay.
$1 billion is as tall as the Empire State Building. A trillion is 1,000 times more than that. Like people can't even fathom.
Now it's in Empire State Buildings. That's crazy. Like, I don't even know. That's going to like Pluto.
Bro, it's insane. So like people have money. So my point is, when you're trying to raise capital, you need to tell people what you're doing. You need to tell people, hey, I'm buying houses, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And if as you start doing that, you get a track record. Like Ryan said, he's paid back $100 million. That is a huge track record. So how much easier is it for him to raise capital now than it was before he had that track record?
Yeah, a lot easier. But still, I mean, look, it is hard to raise capital. It's harder to raise capital when you're just getting started. But man, there's so many people who have 50,000 just trying to figure out what to do with it. Yeah. And in most cases, that's enough capital for you because you can go get a hard money loan for the majority of it. You know, the 50,000 can cover your down payment and your holding costs and all that. There's lots of people like that, you know, and you don't need a big social media following. You've got friends, family, other people who have 50K. And that is what you need.
There's people out there with self-directed IRAs. Shout out to our boy Greg Herline, Horizon Trust. So yeah, you can use that. You can use your 401k. People can use, there's so many ways you can cross collateralize different assets. So if you guys have a home and you have an equity line on it, you can use the equity line. That's the bank's money. That's not your money. You're just borrowing against the asset, the house, the collateral. So there's so many ways to do it. Man, it's been a blast, dude, chopping it up with you. I think people have gotten so much value from you over the years. Obviously, there's a reason you've got so many followers. What, 400,000 on Instagram, over 1 million on TikTok, I'm sure.
Yeah.
YouTube is what, 400,000 or 500,000.
Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah, it's almost 2 million, over 2 million. It's awesome.
There's a reason why you've got that many is because you give so much value. So I appreciate you giving value to my community. And if you guys aren't following Ryan, definitely make sure to. Where can they find you?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to work with us, you can go to ryanpineda.com. And there's lots of different ways to work with us. And for everyone else who just wants the game and the content, you know, Ryan Pineda everywhere.
Cool. So to end this for us, for everyone, let's give the people just one thing, kind of just one thing where if you could give just one piece of advice, if today was your last day on this earth, God forbid that's not the case, but let's say if it was, and you could just give someone just one piece of advice, what would that be?
I mean, look, now you're talking about last days. You know, I mentioned faith before, and it's like the thing I always keep in perspective, especially when times are tough, is that, look, the time we're here on earth is so minuscule compared to the span of eternity, right? And so I think that, number one, you got to be rooted in faith, and specifically in Jesus Christ. And, you know, if you believe that, and you believe that something happens after your time here on earth, you start to realize that I should probably take that pretty seriously, because that is way longer. Eternity is way longer than the 80 years I'm going to be here. And so I always keep that in perspective, not because it keeps me understanding the main mission, but also too, it like makes the problems you have today seem way smaller, because we look at our problems today and we're like, oh, this deal fell apart, man. This person said this about me. I'm having this issue with so-and-so.
Starbucks put too much ice in my coffee. Like,
yeah, dude. And it's like, no, like this is not a big deal. There's nothing that's really that big of a deal in the grand scheme of it, right? If we have that perspective. So I think really start to have an eternal perspective on life, and you'll look at it differently.
I love that. Well, so dude, thank you so much for coming on. It was so much fun. It was a pleasure. You guys will want to listen to this one over and over and over again. I know you got value from it, so please pay it forward. Share it with whoever you feel can get value from it, because the more we share, the more we all grow and learn together. So I love you guys. Until next time, peace.